everybody to part 2 of... can't remember.
6, 7. I thought I'd say it instead of 1, 2.
Wow, I didn't know you could say any other numbers.
I can. I know all my numbers.
So really, this is like me and Dan in a cake.
We put the telly on.
Every time I put the telly on, it does an update,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I just want to put the telly on.
Maman? Is that how you say it? Maman? No, maman is French. Bon maman, lemon.
You go, you want to watch something on Apple maybe. Oh, do you want to update? No! I just want to watch my programme.
I just want to put it on.
Oh.
And I'm now going to just beat this all together using my electric...
And she said, oh, it's in a mousse-bouche. And she said it as if she had one every meal and as if it was the normalest thing ever. And I'm like, Mum, what are you talking about? Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring Kay's Classic Bakes.
Are you excited?
Oh my goodness, I am. Do you know when I get excited?
We've eaten 2 whole cakes of
we
this
really have.
recently.
I get excited when Kay delves into that old cookbook of yours.
Yeah, I'm sure you've all got this.
Now,
where
those are classic bakes.
Yeah, where you've just got like a blank notebook and you just write recipes in that you just randomly find. And I've had one of those going since Bryony was about 4, I think. She drew this picture at the front of it for me at the time, and she must have only been about 4 looking at it.
Yeah.
So what's that, 14, 15 years maybe I've had it going?
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Well, what was so exciting this time was Kay sort of delved into that old cookbook and went searching for something really classic, because there's only one episode to go after today.
There is.
And you've known for a while what the final, seasonal goodness. But forget that, because today, what's just so cool is you found a classic recipe and then you updated it.
I did.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, so the recipe I found in my book was the recipe I'd found somewhere. I think it probably is available online somewhere. But I changed pretty much everything about it.
Yeah. It was the inspiration.
It was the inspiration.
Something marvellous.
Oh, it's delicious.
It brings together...
We have eaten 2 of them recently.
Yes. Look, all for you.
Yes.
We do this to make sure...
We do. It's difficult research to do.
It is.
You don't understand.
Trust me, if it didn't taste any good, he wouldn't be here on the show. We have many things to check.
Yes, we do.
But
it's highly important.
Kay's Classic Bakes is just one element of today's show because, oh my goodness, we're getting ready for the launch of the next Platinum Pattern of 2024.
We are.
Now, this is like super duper exciting because it's the 28th pattern in the Platinum Collection. It all started back in 2018. Kay had a dream. I came downstairs first thing in the morning, and this is when it always happens like this, because Kay has thinking time in the morning. And I'm just all groggy and struggling to come round, and she bombards me with all this amazing ideasness. And she's like, I know what we're going to do. We're going to do... It was all around the Bakery Bears Advent Calendar. That's how it started.
Yeah.
You were like, we're going to do a knit along. I'm going to design something special. But then, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to design something special every season.
Yes.
So when the season begins, and it all started with the All Is Calm socks. And I remember taking those to do the photos.
Yeah, in the woods, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just totally amazing. But this time, for the first time ever, there's a difference in this year's Platinum Collection.
Yes and no.
Well, there is. There's a huge difference.
Well, what happened is when we put that first pattern out, that was in the winter. So number 1 started...
In December. Yes.
So then we just continued that on. So the second pattern was in March.
Because you wanted to do it in every season. Yeah.
The third pattern was in the summer, and then the 4th was in the autumn. But over the years, it sits difficult. It doesn't sit very well in my head that the collection starts with 1 in December and finishes with 4 in September. Do you know what I mean? And I've always wanted to readjust it so that pattern 1 is March, 2 is June, 3 is September, 4 is December with the advent calendar. So that's what we're going to do starting next year.
So that means this year, can I say, because I'm excited?
Yeah.
This year, if you are a gold patron, instead of getting access to 4 platinum patterns in the year, you get access to 5.
There's effectively 5.
Just this year.
Yeah, because the advent calendar design this year will effectively be number 5.
Yes.
That's what we're doing to readjust it, so that from next year in March, that will be number 1 platinum pattern for 2025.
Yes.
And my head will be all lovely and calm.
And we'd not actually sort of taken stock as to the whole platinum collection in a little while.
Yeah.
And we were just talking before we started filming. 28 patterns. So if you became a platinum patron today, you get immediate access to 20. Well, no, from the 1st of September, you would get access to 28 patterns.
Yes.
I mean, exclusive. Can't buy them anywhere.
No.
Super duper special. And you worked out the value.
Yeah, because my patterns are £4.75 and I've never changed that. And I think it's probably about average. I think these days I have seen patterns creeping up, and there are some designers who charge more, like sort of £5-6. But I've never changed it because I'm happy with charging £4.75. So those 28 patterns would cost you £133 to buy.
So in dollars, that's probably $150.
In dollars, easily $150.
So $25, and I've got $150 worth of patterns.
Yes. And obviously, you can stay a patron as long as you want to stay a patron, You
can also downgrade.
You can downgrade.
So you don't have to stay at a platinum.
No.
So yes, this is such an exciting time. Running into September, launch of a very special platinum pattern, and Kay's going to be showing you that platinum pattern later on in today's show.
Indeed.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And that is like the coolest. I'm so excited about this one because it encapsulates us very much like the cake.
The cake does too.
As you maybe saw in the outtakes.
It's us in a cake.
Yes. And this is us in a collection of patterns.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
spectacular.
That's right.
But this has been an epic 2-week period as well for us because, yes, our daughter Bryony managed to get into university. Hooray!
She got her A-level results last week, and all was good, and she's got her place at uni.
So we're now we're already in preparation mode for, getting her sort of up to speed on all the things that she needs to know, having enough meals that she can cook and clean in and all of those types of things. And the last time we cooked, we made bolognese the other day, and something dawned on me, and it had been on my mind every time I'd done this thing recently, and that was pulling the top off a tin of tomatoes.
Oh, it's really...
Now, it has been dawning on me over time because they seem to get more difficult to get into.
Yeah, they do.
And, it's the first time she'd ever properly tried to sort of get into a tin like that. And we actually nailed it because what we did was we used a knife.
That's what I do. It's the ones with the ring pull. I don't know if it's the same all over the world for cans.
Well, the ring pull tops are pretty much standard now here.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll get a can that I've got to open with a tin opener.
It's rare now. I've not done
Well, like I did yesterday. I had to yesterday with those big tins of potatoes because I use those to make frittata, Usually it's the ring pulls.
And do you know what I find the most offensive about those tops is? You pull the top off,
they splash everywhere.
And with the final flick, you get covered in whatever's in the can.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do? And I was thinking of my mum.
My mum can't open them.
I must talk to my mum about this actually and say.
Steve will do it, won't he?
Yeah, to be fair.
My mum can't do it. She can't open those cans at all. And I know you can get gadgets to help older people, but she can't use those either.
Do you know what the gadgets were? They were called tin openers.
Why can't we just
What was
use
the problem?
What was the problem with tin openers?
There was the best ones.
The best ones are the cheapest ones.
Well, the best one that I had when I was a kid was, because the problem with those cheap ones is you do have to have hand strength.
Yeah, you do.
And I know a lot of older people don't have hand strength.
No, they don't.
But you could get one in the old days, and granted it did break, but you just buy a new one. It's one of those plastic ones where it was white. You opened it up,
and
did like that.
It grabbed.
And it literally, it just turned and then it just came off.
They don't last very long, tin openers, do they?
No, but at least you don't get splattered with food every time you open your tin.
What happens quite often with me is the ring pull comes off. The ring pull comes off and you've got a can that you've now got to somehow open.
Shall I tell you something? That's not the only thing that splatters you when you're using it. And this happens every time with me. I mean, we've all spent a lot of time over the last few years using hand sanitizer, haven't we?
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah, so do I. The lid on the hand sanitizer is the Carex one that pops up.
It splatters.
Literally every time
it does.
It goes straight into my face.
Somebody needs to address this. It's obviously a world problem.
Well, it's simple.
With just things that seal things.
Have a click off top and then squeeze and out it comes. Like on the tomato ketchup. How annoying would that be if every time you open the ketchup you got splattered with it?
Yeah.
Although our daughter Bryony probably wouldn't mind.
She probably wouldn't mind, no. But the whole tin can thing is... The
whole tin can thing is a nightmare. And the other thing which has been doing my head in recently, and actually you're the one who's helped me sort it out, electronics attached to your television. Every single one of them, you have to use a different process to get it to work. For example, we have a PS5. If we turn the PS5 before we select that channel on the telly, when you select the channel on the telly, it turns it off. The DVD player, I can never get it to work.
No.
But Kay can, and I know what it is. I've twigged.
You have to have the TV on, and it has to just be on a normal channel like BBC One or something.
Well,
and then you put the DVD player is off. You then open the DVD player, put the disc in, close it, and it works.
This is like the Krypton factor.
I know.
But I think I know what it is.
Every time we do it, we're like, why is this so difficult?
I think I know what it is. I've been watching you because I've just given up now. I'll just take a step back and say, okay, you do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's when you physically press play.
I don't press play.
Yeah, because when you put the disc in, it automatically plays itself. If the disc is already in, because the disc was in the other day.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
We hit play, I hit play. And
that works.
And then, suddenly the TV recognises it and you're off.
Gosh.
In
do
the
you know
old
what?
days.
Let's bring back videos. I know they took up a lot of space and everything, but we never had these problems, did we?
I think the problem is now, because everything is so computerised, in the old days, you physically had a button.
Yes.
That if you turned it, it removed the power source. Now it has to go through a shutdown process. On the other thing as well.
I can't even bear it.
We put the telly on.
Every time I put the telly on, it does an update, and I'm like, I just want to put the telly on.
So
I'm so sick. Every time I turn my Kindle on, no, wait a minute to update.
Kindles are a bit frustrating, but you wouldn't expect it from a TV. I certainly would expect it from a TV. You want to watch something on Apple maybe. Do you want to update? No. I just want to watch my programme.
I just want to put it on.
That's way too much.
Let's go back to 1983 when everything was lovely.
You see, the funny thing is, in the old days, when I was at college, I worked on the customer services desk it's a shop called Comet, and I used to deal with all the problems, and literally every time, what would happen is you'd get on the phone to the manufacturer, you'd go through all these processes, and then they'd say, right, just try turning it off and on again. And that would always fix it. But the problem is now, because of the way things work, it won't happen anymore. That doesn't happen in the same way. But look, you can tell we're getting old because we're complaining about opening tins and turning things on and off.
Look, you can all relate, can't you? I know you can.
Share.
Please share your tin opening stories. That would be hilarious.
That's way too much waffle because we've got so much to show you today. Three amazing finished projects.
Indeed.
I mean, just the business. Also, as well, though, I think we have some cross stitch, don't we?
We do have a bit of cross stitch.
It's going to be a good show when there's cross stitch. And also, 2 wonderful projects from me. Particularly, I'm about to finish the winter at Pemberley cow. But look, let's talk about that. Let's get on and have a look. As I say, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Oh, yes. The first thing I've got to show you in one of my lovely Moo and Mouse bags. Isn't this one pretty? It's a wintry one with all these sort of icy colours. Love it. Because it matches what's inside. I nearly said the name of them.
Oh, but you didn't.
I didn't. It's my socks, my lace socks, the design that I was working on that I showed you last time, and I've made some really good progress. So I wanted to give you a little update. So I've finished the first sock. Let me pop it on a blocker. And I've almost finished the leg on the second one. Thank you all so much for your positive comments about this design. You know, I was thrilled because, as I said before, I honestly never know how a design is going to be, what's the word? Received. Thank you. How a design is going to be received by people. And the comments were all just lovely and, you know, really excited. A number of people, and I completely agree, said that this sock, I'll show you the sock. So here is the first one that's completed. Said that this design reminded them of those old-fashioned school socks that we all wore back in the day, you know, the white lace school socks. And it does absolutely make me think of that as well. But yeah, I've finished the first one and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. With this design, I did a little technique that I have done once before on the Clementine socks. And what I did, do you know how when you've got a stitch repeat and it ends with a purl stitch, but it doesn't start with a purl stitch? What that means is that on one side of your sock, you're going to end with a purl stitch. So it looks really nice here, having that purl stitch bordering the design. But on the other side, you haven't started with a purl. So it means that on the other side, you don't get that purl, you know, that purl stitch going down to border it on the other side. Well, I've rectified it on this design and I've done a little technique so that on both sides, you get that little border of purl stitches. So that's included in the pattern, on, you know, the technique on how to do that. It's really simple, a really simple thing to do, but I think it makes a big difference, especially when you're wearing the socks. You know, when you look at it over your instep, it will be symmetrical. You'll have that purl stitch running down both sides, so it borders the design really nicely. So that was a nice little detail. I have filmed a tutorial on the stitch pattern, so that's going to be included in the pattern as well. So you can see as well, I used a blue for the heel and the toe. When I showed you this before, I was showing you that green. Do you remember that was a match for the neon green speckles in here? And I started to knit it in and it was just too bright. So I made the decision to rip that out, and I had this blue, actually, a mini in my stash. It's this beautiful blue, really pretty, that I dyed up, and it's the same base, and I put it against the yarn and I was like, yeah, that's what it needs to be.
Oh, we did have some fun though choosing the contrast, didn't we?
Did we?
Didn't you get out 3 different?
Yeah, I did.
Didn't you try one and?
Yeah, well, I was going to use the green and I'd got the pink and I thought, shall I use the pink? But both of those were just too overpowering. And I think because it overall reads as blue with a sock, I think having a blue heel and toe, it just makes it look more cohesive and a bit more of a gentle overall colour, rather than if I'd used one of those brighter ones, I think the heel and toe would have just jumped out at you and it takes away from the design. Yeah. So yeah, I really like that colour, and I love how these speckles have knit up. I was so excited to get to the foot so that I could see how the speckles knit up just in plain stocking stitch, and I think it looks lovely. I'm hoping that I might just have enough yarn left over to just do a really short pair of socks if I do a contrast cuff heel and toe just in, you know, plain stocking stitch, just for me, a little shorty pair, because these ones will probably go to Bryony, I think. I doubt she'll wear them until maybe the spring or summer next year now, with it being a lace pair, but you know, that's fine. So yeah, first sock all done, and the second sock is on the needles. So here is where I'm up to. I've just got, I think, 2 more repeats on the leg. I think it's about 50-ish rounds I did on the leg, something like that. So it's just a sort of average length leg, I would say. And I've got this little stitch progress keeper. I can't remember where I got this from. That sort of got this icy house on it, and I thought the colours looked really nice with the sock. So yeah, I'm working away now on the second one. I have had some people volunteer very kindly to test these for me. Thank you very much, ladies. So my plan is to get this second one finished and the pattern written over the next kind of week or so. I'll then get it into testing. So fingers crossed, all being well, on the next show, these will be finished and it'll be in testing, and then I'll be able to give you a sort of estimate of when the pattern will be out. I'm guessing it'll be sometime in September, I would guess, but I'm just not sure when. Middle to later-ish, I would imagine.
What was so funny was we filmed a tutorial for this, and I edited it ready to go into the pattern, and I said to you, I'll pop it into the pattern, and I actually went and looked for it.
And I haven't written it yet. So Dan,
it's just all in note form in a book.
Yeah, Dan texts me and he's like, I'll pop it in the pattern for you. And then he texts me back and he went, oh, no, I won't. I said, look, you can write the pattern if you want. It's fine. Carry on.
No, sadly, I can't.
No, sadly.
That's where the real skill is.
Yeah, so that's all going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. But I'm, still absolutely loving knitting this pattern. I will definitely knit it again. It's just got that real sort of melodic, rhythmic feel to it.
I think what's been
really
so
lovely to knit.
What's been so lovely about this design process has been, I know you mentioned it last time, but you've been aspiring to this for a long time.
I have. And, if and when, you get the pattern, if you want to do that, and you look at how it's constructed, you might think, well, gosh, yeah. Because that's what I thought. Well, why didn't I think of trying that before now? Because it is just straightforward stitches, and I think it's always amazing, isn't it, what you can create in the right sequence with straightforward stitches. But I think the joy as well of this sock is it doesn't really show on the blocker. You really need it on a foot. Is when you kind of stretch it out a little bit and you see what it looks like stretched out, and it's so pretty. It's such a pretty design, I think. So yeah, super excited for this one. And yes, I do have the name. And I will let you know the name next time. Once I've got the pattern written and it's in testing and we're close to that point of it coming out, then I will let you know the name. And it does suit it really, really well. And I think it's a kind of season. It's a seasonal name, but that doesn't mean you can't knit it whenever you want to knit it. Obviously, it's a sort of vaguely seasonal name and really, really suits it. So I'm super, super pleased, and I love this yarn. I've got to say, this colour I think is one of my all-time favourites that I've ever dyed. And I don't say that lightly because I've dyed a lot of colours. But this is one of the colours that I dyed in the last Yarny Book Club. And it's the one for the Christmas holiday was the book. And I dyed up two colours. One was a more sort of traditional, rich colours of Christmas. And this is a more sort of modern interpretation of Christmas. So we've got that icy blue background with a hint of pink and then the neon sort of red and green speckles. And I just love how it's knit up. It's just so pretty. So if you fancy dyeing up some yarn yourself, then just look back at that show and it shows you exactly how to do it.
One of the most exciting sort of times in this house, that sounds funny.
In this house.
is when Kay's going through the process of creating a new design, because it's I think there'll be loads of creative people out there, and when you're in the zone, it's impossible to think about anything else and to get out of the zone. And it's just you can feel an energy. There's when people say there's something in the air. You can feel that there's something in the air. And it's funny that you said before, you never know how a sock's going to be received. You now know, I think, really well what the elements are to a good design. Whereas maybe 20 socks ago, you didn't know quite so much. And I think that is the development of you as a designer, knowing the ingredients to what makes something flow and be enjoyable.
I think I've got a good idea on what knitters enjoy knitting when it comes to socks, I think.
Yeah.
I think I've got a fairly good handle on that. And it's funny, actually, Dan saying about the design process, because I was only saying to you, I think yesterday or the day before, that I had no plans to design a pair of socks at this point during the year. And it actually comes at a really, really busy time, just with lots of, all the work things we've got going on, the upcoming things we've got going on, the advent calendar, Sockoween, Bryony leaving,
But what did we
all
say?
of those things. But what we said and what I said is, if I can't ignore it, and I said to you, I can't ignore it. If something like this comes along and I come up with something, if I was to just, I could have just made notes in my design book and thought I'll come back to it later on. I might never come back to it, something else would come along. And it might just get left in that design book as an idea on a bit of paper and never come to fruition. So I always think, okay, whatever I've got to do to make the time to fit that in, then that's what I've got to do, because I've just learned over the years not to ignore something, and we're going to get it finished off and the pattern out in the autumn. So that'll be really lovely.
That's cool.
So Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your needles?
Well, I just thought I'd mention, just in case anyone thinks that I'm a lunatic. Well, I mean, you probably can't see, but you might have noticed that I'm missing hair at certain points on my arms. And I didn't want, because I know people do have beady eyes sometimes. I got bitten the other week twice
really bad.
on my arm there, and we dealt with that. And now I've been bitten on this side. Now, this side, I don't think was outside. I think it was inside.
Something in there.
Yes, but this was definitely outside.
We do have the windows open all the time, don't we? And at night time, which, we don't have screens in this country, but...
what I've realised is that the only way that I can get this stuff to work, I can't remember what
it's a Savlon.
But it sets.
It's like a clear gel, bite and sting gel or something, and it seals over it.
So it stops it itching.
It stops it itching.
It's genius.
Because we've discovered it's having it in the air that makes it itch.
Yeah.
But to make it stick to the thing, we had to shave a patch on his arm.
Because otherwise,
it just stuck
the hair just pushes it up.
Just stuck to the hair on his arm, Anyway,
Hilarious.
Random.
Look, Kay said, I think the last time or the time before I shared this, it's probably the time before, I said, I'm getting close to the end. And you said, sometime in 2025. I think you made some comment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually
Proven wrong.
I'm about 3 or 4 rows from the end. Crumbs, it's been fun. I mean, just Regia Merino Yak and just lovely motifs. You can have a look if you like.
So this is the winter at Pemberley
It is
cowl.
indeed. I love knitting these. They're so much fun, and
Isn't it lovely?
You sort of get to the middle and you think, oh my goodness, this is going to take ages, and
You've done that second half much quicker than the first half.
Yeah, I think
definitely
that's how it works with these, because I think it's the same with jumpers.
Beautiful. It looks so good, doesn't it?
You get halfway through a jumper, and it's when you can see the finish line. I don't know about you. Do you get inspired when you see the finish line, and does that make you charge onwards? I bet it does.
Definitely does with me. Yeah.
I think that's it's human nature at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It feels like a big project, when you first get going, but then they're really not. I mean, they really are.
No, I mean you've used
would knock this off pretty fast.
This was 200 grams of the Regia Merino Yak, and you've probably got. I will weigh them, and all the measurements will be in the pattern, obviously, but certainly, it's nowhere near 200 grams, maybe 120, something like that, I would guess. And it's just fantastic, isn't it? So this will be a platinum pattern for next year.
Yeah.
I can't remember which season it is. It's not the summer, because it's not a summery thing, is it? So it was either March or September, I can't remember which, but this will definitely be a platinum pattern for next year.
She said, I can't wait to block this one.
I did say that, because I think it's I say tricky, it's not tricky in terms of actually doing it. No. I think it's in the skill of your colour work, so I think it's a great practice piece. Because the ivy sections in particular, we have quite long sections where you have to carry your floats. But I know there's some super skilled colourwork knitters out there that'll make short work of this, I'm sure. And it's so pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, and also when it's blocked, I bet you it looks fine.
It'll be much improved when it's blocked because it's going to relax all of those stitches, isn't it? And I can't wait to see what it looks like blocked. So, yeah, this is Winter at Pemberley.
Sort of picking up beautifully on the whole Summer of Stitching in a way.
Jane Austen, yes,
It's Jane Austen
absolutely.
thing.
Yeah,
the Summer of Stitching, which is now finished.
It's finished now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you could argue that we do have one more Patreon exclusive show where we'll be looking back.
Yes.
Over, the whole event.
Yes.
But, what a wonderful 3 months it's been of
it has been fantastic.
amazing projects and
it has
gorgeous
been.
knitting and, so many lovely things. And this really does fit in with all of that. So it's sort of cool that I've finished this.
It's really cool.
Right when the Summer Stitching is
It's really
finished.
cool,
I mean,
yeah,
that's really
yeah.
sort of poetic, which is just lovely.
Just lovely. And this yarn is perfect for it. So
Yeah.
if you've got a couple of skeins of this hanging around, then it's absolutely perfect.
Do you know, though, I really do enjoy... So, for example, if you take the Sweetheart cowl...
It's not scratchy.
I knitted the Sweetheart cowl in 2 very smooth yarns.
Yes.
And I really love the challenge of doing colour work with yarns that you wouldn't
Normally,
do colour work
yes.
with. I find knitting colour work such a sort of engaging sort of, everything about it. It really gets me. It's been a real process getting to that point.
Yeah.
Going through, for me, the journey was definitely the double knitting, because double knitting, there's a lot of yarn management.
You do mean actual double knitting with
I do.
two-sided fabric.
Correct.
Yes, right, sorry.
Yes, because you're dealing with 2
Yes.
bits of yarn, and you're having to manage the gauge on both bits of those pieces of yarn. This is terrible English. And it's the same process in my head as to when you're knitting colour work, because you've got 2 bits of yarn and you have to manage the gauge so that, the floats are right and that everything then creates a lovely fabric. So the journey I went through with the double knitting got me to this point. But I know that colour work is just the thing for me now. There won't be me moving on to something else, because I just find the whole process, and coming back to what I said before, the next thing I really would love to do is I maybe would like to take a couple of yarns which you just think, oh no, you couldn't do colour work with that, and do something with. I don't know whether I might, one of the because there's 2 other designs out there. I might do one of those again, maybe.
Right.
I think I probably will.
You see, I think he's wanting me to design another cowl,
I'm not.
isn't he? No.
I'm not.
I ain't got time.
No. I'm going to knit
I
one
will
of the.
do it for you.
I'm going to knit one of the ones which are already out there, because there's 2 to go at.
Yes, there's
I think
Sweetheart cowl.
there
and
is.
there's another
Ooh,
one.
maybe Sweetheart cowl. Yes.
What was the other one? Sweetheart cowl.
It's Hadrian's.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The Sweetheart cowl you've not done for a while.
I think Sweetheart cowl all the way, baby.
Right.
With
2 sort
contrasting.
of soft merinos or something that wouldn't typically be used.
Yes,
Right.
because I really want that challenge again of, trying to make it work. Yeah.
I dyed up that orange recently, didn't I? That might work.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun. I was dyeing some yarn recently for a personal project, and I just fancied having a skein of yarn in this colour that I'd dyed up before, and I'd got a mini of it, and I thought, oh, I'll remember how to do that. And of course, I hadn't written it down, and I thought I remembered. And the more I tried to get it to look like the colour, the less it looked like the colour. What I was aiming for was like a pinkish, corally sort of colour, and it just came out kind of orange. This is the yarn. It's a lovely colour, and you wouldn't believe it, but there's masses of pink in this, absolutely masses of pink. And you just can't see it because, like I said, I just kept trying to make it look like I wanted it, and it just kept looking more and more like this. But I think for colour work, this would be perfect with either a really dark colour. It's just 85-15 merino nylon, so it's really soft.
Cool. So something to go with that, and I'm going to do a Sweetheart cowl.
Yes, and maybe a dark colour or just a cream, just the undyed would work.
I don't mind. Whatever
So we'll
you
have a
think.
think.
Brilliant.
So that's a good use for that, isn't
Some
it?
of my stresses have been relieved.
Right, okay. Well, that'd be lovely.
What
wouldn't
else is on your needle?
it? So I have some cross stitch.
No, it should be what else is on your Ada.
That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Aida. It always makes me laugh when I say Aida fabric because...
Is it spelled A-I-D-A?
Yes.
Isn't that the opera Aida?
Is that how you spell
I
that?
think it might be. I'm not an opera person though, so forgive me if I got that wrong. But I'm
Right.
pretty sure it's
Right.
Aida.
Well, I don't know where the word Aida comes from in terms of the cross-stitch fabric. It's got to be like European, I feel like. But I've no idea. If anybody knows, comment and let us know. So yeah, I picked back up my cross-stitch that I started a few weeks ago. This was meant to be a quick holiday project when we went away for a week at the beginning of July. Clearly that didn't happen. But I did pick it back up again a few days ago and I'm making some good progress. This is a kit from The World in Stitches. I've spoke about this shop a number of times. I love it. The kits are really high quality. She uses, it's all DMC threads and it's Zweigert fabric, really good quality. And she actually sent me this one. I bought a bunch of her kits and she put this one in as a freebie, which is just amazing. So I am working on the Rainbow Heart from The World in Stitches. And I think this kit it might be £10. And I think that's a great price. You know, for the quality fabric, just the whole thing, you know, I couldn't ask for more in terms of a cross-stitch kit. It's just been a joy. And what I really, really love, I mean, this is just a small thing, but for me it makes such a difference. It's the paper that she uses to print on because it's a thicker paper. And it makes such a difference because... you know, putting it in and out of a bag and all of that business, it can get really crumpled up and a bit sort of shabby looking, can't it? But this, because there's a thicker paper, that just doesn't happen. I don't find that it happens. So the charts on the back of here, I'm obviously not going to show you. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. And there's a particular thread colour in this that I'm telling you, I've got to get a full skein. A full skein of the thread colour because I love it. And it's the blue in here. I'll tell you actually what the DMC number is. I should make sure I've got this right. So it's DMC number 809. And it's listed on here as Gentle Blue, but that might just be the name that the person who's put the kit together has called it. I'm not sure if that's what DMC call it. And it's just the prettiest kind of periwinkle blue. It's gorgeous. I'm sure I'll have a little bit left over and I might use that for something, a sort of little scrappy thing I've got in my head. But I might just have to get a full skein. I'm presuming they're called skeins, aren't they? You know, they've got to be, haven't they? So here's where I'm up to with my heart. So I think last time I showed you, I'd just done the orange and the pink, hadn't I? So I'm working my way this way and I've just got this little corner of one side of the heart here to finish. So I'm on this kind of pale orange, if you like, and then I've just got a little bit of the darker orange and a tiny bit of that pink up here, and then I can work this way. But it's just so fun, just stitching these little squares. I just find it, you know, really another really soothing project. I'm stitching it actually on some pink Zweigert. Can you see it's pale pink? Hang on, let me get a white piece of paper. Look, you can see it's pale pink, because why wouldn't I? You know me and pink. So I didn't use the Zweigert that's in the kit because that's white, but I'm just going to save that for something else. And I'm just really enjoying it. It's sort of like, you know, if you're a cross stitcher and if you are a cross stitcher like I am a knitter, you might have loads of projects on the go, might you, at the same time. But this is, for me, this is like one of those palette cleansers, as people like to call them. Do you know, if you've been working on lots of complicated things? Knitting,
my mum, she would call it an amuse-bouche.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I remember, I can't remember.
That's like when you get a spoon of something, like a jelly or something.
I just remember.
Or a little bit of mint ice cream partway through a meal.
Was it one of the first times we went there? I can't remember when it was. But
we went to your mum's?
Yeah, I remember the first time.
I remember the first time I went, I thought Dan's mum was really posh. I was really scared.
Kay looked great too. I mean, she'd really dressed up to the absolute nines.
Had I?
Just gorgeous.
I don't remember.
Anyway, I just remember, I can't remember if it was then but I just remember her like coming out with these like tiny little things, and I'm like, what is that? And she said, oh, it's in a mousse-bouche. And she said it as if she had one every meal and as if it was the normalest thing ever. And I'm like, Mum, what are you talking about? We've never had anything like that before in our lives. She was definitely trying to show off.
It was all a bit daunting for this sort of girl from Yorkshire, let me tell you. But honestly, she's not like that at all.
No.
You know, Dan's mum is the loveliest person.
Yes.
Well, that just made me laugh, that memory. So, yeah, this is really like that sort of palette cleanser. So if you are a cross-stitcher and your head's been in, like, some complicated piece for the past month or whatever, and you feel like your head's going to explode, I would really recommend something like this, because all you're doing is cross-stitching little squares and little triangles, and it's just a joy. You know, it's just so lovely. So I'm here, look, you can see, started on this orange. So I'm going to try and get this bit finished today and tomorrow. And then I'm going to work down here, because my plan for this piece, when I've finished it, is I think I'm going to use it to patchwork into a bag, because I love to do that. I've got 2 or 3 now, haven't I? It all started actually with the Beach Days project bag.
Last summer of stitching.
Which was last summer, and I noticed it was here. It's right here actually in my, oh gosh, they're all going to come tumbling out. Oh, it's on top of the Austin bag. So here's the Austin bag that we've just finished. But yeah, it all started with the Beach Days project bag. So if you remember this from last summer, this was the Summer of Stitching project. So I designed this cross-stitch piece and we all cross-stitched it together. And then we made it into this bag and patchworked it into this lovely bag. And I use this bag all the time. I used all Liberty quilting cotton for it in sort of seasidey themed things. So this is where it started. So I did this and loved it. And then I did the Nutcracker, didn't I? Which is up there.
And the jumper.
And the jumper, which is, that's the next bag down there. So yeah, I've made 3 previously, so this will be the 4th.
Lovely.
And my plan is to get sort of fabrics that maybe have love heart themes on them and just patchwork it into this kind of love heart themed bag. And that would be lovely to use on Valentine's, wouldn't it? In February.
Girls are so different to boys.
Dan's like, I just use the same 4 bags the whole time.
I love them though.
Don't care. I know you love them.
Oh my goodness, it's like,
I do get great joy out of making.
Oh, shorts. I mean,
Yes, we know. But as you've just said, you don't get excited about things like that.
No,
But
it's a bag.
It's not just a bag. Can I just tell you, right, this morning, I'll just tell you another random thing. So Bryony's going off to university next month, and you all know who Goffy is, don't you? Or maybe you don't. She's got 2 Goffies. They're her very, very precious giraffes. And she's had them since she was a baby. And she keeps Goffy 1 in a bag. And it's this scruffy bag that, like, you know, I didn't make. That anyway, so she wanted a university-suitable bag to keep Goffy secure. So this morning we had a long discussion about it, and I was going to make her a bag. But then I was looking through my bags and I found, and what's it called? Elizabeth somebody. Oh, I can't remember the name. Is it Scarlet or some? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, we'd got this bag and it's kind of velvet and it's got giraffes on it. It's
perfect.
Orange with giraffes on it. And I said, oh, Bryony, this one's perfect. And she's like, oh. And she got Goffy and she laid her in it and she put all the little bits and pieces. There's like little blankets I've made her and all sorts. And then she said, oh, she needs a cushion in there. I said, right, we'll get my felt out this afternoon and, you know, we'll make her a little stuffed cushion and then we're going to make her a love heart and we're going to attach it to the bag. And we had a lovely time doing that. And you know, it's just totally beyond you, isn't it?
Huh? It's not beyond me.
These things are important.
I know they are.
Have
you finished?
I have finished with my ramble. I find that insulting.
I'm only joking. That is a gorgeous cross stitch.
But yes, that blue, isn't that blue lovely?
Yes.
Look at the blue.
It's periwinkle, isn't it?
Can you see this one here?
Is that the periwinkle blue one?
It's like a periwinkle. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it.
I'll just make a confession. I didn't know what periwinkle blue until...
That's periwinkle blue.
I had no idea what it was.
It's sort of like a blue that's got quite a lot of pink in it, I always think.
You can sort of see periwinkles in it.
Go away.
What is a periwinkle?
Yeah, let's move on because I can't have discussions like this with a frustrating man.
Okay, Nutkin socks. Oh my goodness, these have come out just like the business.
I have a blocker.
Total and utter perfection. Gorgeous yarn from Kay. Amazing project.
Yarn's lovely.
Knitted it too long, but it fits.
Knitted it. Oh, in the foot.
Yes.
Well, only a tad. It's fine.
You put it on and you were like, oh,
it's
okay.
cosy.
Yeah.
Because I don't generally wear my socks these days in shoes.
No.
Because most of the time when I'm out walking and I wear like proper little walk, like running socks.
Yeah.
You don't need to know that. So I wear hand knit socks every day.
Yes.
First thing in the morning and after my shower with pyjamas. Randomness.
So the pattern, as I've mentioned, is just perfect for me because first 2 needles something and then other 2 needles something different. So it really does keep me engaged. But the key to success for me with a project is, as you saw before, I was knitting the ribbing on the Winter at Pemberley cowl, and it's tedious, and I really struggle. It really is an absolute pain. The ribbing on this is like all over the shop. And so it's not a pain at all. There's rhythm in it. You're off and you're doing it, but it's not like monotonous rhythm.
No, because if you look at this bit, for example, can you see how I've designed it to flow into the pattern? That's what Dan means. It's a very particular sort of rib.
The difference in the enjoyment is vast. I've loved knitting the Winter at Pemberley, but I found the rib at the start and the rib at the end really hard.
You just get bored by rib,
I get bored and I don't get inspired to knit. This, I want to knit it. Every bit of it I want to do. It's marvellous. And it's fun, I think, when it was cool hearing Kay talk there before about cross-stitch, and it just made me think, and I'm sure this has dawned on you as well, but it's so important. If you love a particular craft, sometimes it can get a bit too much. If you do it a lot, you can just be like, oh, do you know what? But having something different to just pick up and go at for an hour resets your battery so that you can then come back to your true love. That might be cross-stitch, might be knitting, might be something completely different. But that change of pace, it's great for your brain. It's fun for you because it's a different skill, but then it actually empowers you to get back to what you love. So don't ever think, oh, I'm not doing that because I'm not doing the thing I love the most. Actually, it's a bit like I said to you, how some days you'll say, oh, I don't think I've got time for a walk. Actually, those are the days you make the time because you'll end up working better later because you had your walk earlier. You won't be thinking, oh, I missed my walk. Oh,
no, I have missed some walks recently for various reasons, and it has definitely impacted me not getting out and having that 45 minutes.
It makes you work smarter and better later.
And it's sometimes really difficult to fit it in, and I've realised that I've just got to make the time. And one of my problems actually was that I'd tried a few different audiobooks recently and just could not get into any of them. So I was feeling a bit frustrated. But then recently I've just found one that I've sort of clicked with. So now I've got an audiobook.
Cool.
I'm much happier. But this yarn is lovely. I dyed this up about a year ago. So it's like this overall purple with these speckles of black, orange and bright green. And it's so lovely. Beautiful.
It's a great project.
To have them.
Really great project. Into the second sock now and looking forward to getting into the lace. Oh, yes.
Lovely.
What else is on your needles?
Sorry, I was distracted by the thought of having those lovely socks.
I know.
So the last thing I've been working on is in another one of my, cross-stitch patchworked bags. It's my Yuletide scarf. The Advent scarf I've been working on, and I've made some really good progress on this. So I'm currently on number 18 out of 24.
Wow.
Oh, and I'm all in a bit of a tangle. Let me just sort out this.
It's such... For me, the only time I ever get in a tangle, and I'm... You know, the tool is so important for the job that you're doing. Whatever the tool is that you choose, you know, whether it be short circulars, you know, whatever it might be. But as soon as I got rid of the joined-up needles...
The joined-up needles... Well, what's that then?
I never get tangled with DPS.
Oh, Magic Loop, you
Magic
mean?
Loop.
Magic Loop's terrible. You can just put it in a bag, like, gently like this.
Yeah.
The next time you take it out, it yarns everywhere.
And you're like, how did that happen?
Tangled round, I don't know.
It's like insanity.
So, yeah, I'm on number 18 of my minis. So this is... I've shown this a couple of times before. And this is a design that I'll be releasing early November. And it's called the Yuletide Scarf. So this is where I'm up to now with it. Now, where was I the last time? I was in the pink section, I think, down here, wasn't I? And now, look, I've worked through the pinks, purples, and I'm into this sort of deep, sort of kind of like a soft aubergine, I would call that, purple. And I think these colours now are just looking lovely. Look how, look, it goes on and on. So I started down here with this cream, fairly sort of neutral cream, and then worked through all these sort of peachy shades into like browns and bronzes, into pink, through the pinks, into sort of lavender, and then more deep purples. And then after this, I've just got these ones left. So we're going to run into kind of blues and then ending with, I think the very last one is this, which is like a kind of pistachio green, which is very pretty, isn't it? Very lovely. The last two are very, very similar. I'm hoping once I knit them in, it won't look quite so similar, but... You know, it is what it is at the end of the day. It'll be fine. So these minis were a calendar, an advent calendar that I bought last year from Beehive Yarns. And it was patisserie themed. And they were all the colours. So they were all based on, you know, French patisserie. And there was lots of macarons in there. Quite a few things I had no idea what they were, but, you know... It's fine. I'm not French at the end of the day. And I've been working my way through, and I think it's just going to make the prettiest scarf. I've been using, for the contrast, it's this gorgeous deep purple. Isn't that beautiful? And that is Malabrigo sock, just straightforward sock, just the 100% merino. And it's Violetta Africana, is that deep purple. And it's knit in the round, so I'm knitting it on a hat circular, 16-inch circular. Yarn is held double, so you're actually only knitting through effectively 10 grams a day. So it's easily knittable, you know, in a day, so you can comfortably get through this in December. When I knit it last December, I used a different advent calendar, and that's the one that's in the pattern. That one was from Beaches and Birdsong, and I loved it, and I bought hers again this year. And I did knit it every day in December last year, and I managed to do it, you know, not a problem. So it's easily achievable, which I think sometimes advent projects that you see can be sort of like really big shawls or really big blankets. And whilst they're absolutely beautiful, I think it can be a struggle to knit through like all of a 20 gram, for example, if it's a big project in a day. I think that's really difficult to achieve. But this is definitely achievable. You will have a beautiful scarf for Christmas Eve, which I think is just a delight, isn't it? So I'm going to get this finished off. There'll be in the pattern, there'll be 4 tutorials in the pattern, just showing you all the different aspects of working through it. And yeah, so it'll be all ready to release at the beginning of November.
Now, I don't want to say anything that commits me to anything, But
how lovely it is.
you know how you talk to me,
Ooh.
you'll like regularly get out blanket squares and go, oh, look at these. These are marvellous, aren't they? Oh, you'd like to do one, wouldn't you? Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun?
And Dan's
and I'm
like,
no, I really wouldn't like to do that. When I look at this,
Yeah.
right, I can see, because you always say that the funness of the blanket square is...
Funness.
Yes, is the ability to play with colours and things.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what's going on here?
Yes.
Yes. Now, I can understand this.
That needle.
Oh, my goodness. It's like it's
Wow.
like tarnished.
It's tarnished.
Yeah. I can understand the playing with colours here more than on the blanket squares. And I could see myself doing that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to use... And with an advent calendar, your ability to choose the colours is taken away from you, isn't it? Because
So you could just choose your own colours.
So you could just make your own advent calendar, couldn't you? Which I think is a brilliant idea, because they do get more and more expensive, the yarn advent calendars. They are a lot of work, so I do understand. Prices go up. But not everyone's in that position. And, you know, I think to make your own advent calendar or swap with a friend. I'm doing that this year, you know, swap with a friend, you know, and create your own. Because if you do, especially if you make your own early on in the year and put them in bags, you're never going to remember what's in each bag come December. You know, you will have forgotten what you've put in there.
Yeah.
So you could actually create your own sequence of colours that you really want to knit with, and, you know, make your own beautiful scarf with your own yarn that's not cost you anything. And yeah.
Honestly, some of these yarns are really, really lovely.
Really pretty.
That
you know,
one
it's really, yeah.
is
I
just
do love
beautifully
the
done.
speckled ones are just gorgeous. I mean,
Who is
look.
this again?
It's
Peaches of Birdsong.
no. This is Beehive Yarns.
So this is Beehive Yarns.
Beehive Yarns. But yeah, the speckles are just gorgeous. And some, you know, the solids as well. You know, that peach is beautiful. I love this colour.
I think the whole thing looks cohesive.
Yeah, it does.
So that says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, the colours definitely all go together, don't they? It's really, really pretty. And whether... I mean, Bryony does love scarves, so effectively it might go to her. She does have a number of scarves.
I could see her wearing them.
But I can see her wearing it, yeah. I think
It seems
she would.
those colours.
I think she would. She suits really sort of autumnal colours. And
Well,
there's
also as well,
lots of autumnal colours.
it does
in
look
here.
slightly university-y.
It does, doesn't it, with the stripes?
Yes.
Yeah. But it looks lovely, all curled up, doesn't it?
Now,
Yeah.
quick news flash before we move on to the
Newsflash.
delicious cakes.
Ooh.
I don't know if anyone's noticed a slice of delicious cake. I don't know if anyone's noticed that the NFL and Hallmark have teamed up to make a film.
They have
What's it called, Kay? I can't remember.
something to do with the Chiefs.
Yeah. It's got Tyler Hines in it.
That's him that looks just like Matthew Perry.
He does look a bit like him, and he's got that slightly
Yes, he does.
sarcastic.
You need to look him up. He usually has a beard, right?
Yes.
It's not so noticeable when he has the beard.
Yeah.
But we saw him in something recently and he didn't have his beard.
No.
And honestly, he could be Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
He just looked, his mannerisms and everything.
So that's a Christmas Hallmark.
Yeah.
But the Hallmark that I can't speak, that we really want to see, but we just can't get access to it. It's First Down and Love.
First Down and Love Hallmark channel. We can't get it here.
Because it's got the surfing dude in it. What's he
know.
called? With the black hair.
I
And it's
love
also
him.
got Pascal Hutton in it. And we've seen
Right.
Pascal Hutton in a load of things.
Yeah,
Pascal
yeah.
Hutton was the sister in the one with Debbie Gibson.
Oh, that was
Wedding of
excellent.
Dreams.
Debbie Gibson. Do you
Started
remember
off
Debbie Gibson?
Summer of Dreams.
Yeah,
Second one. Do you remember it started and she's singing it?
Yes, she was singing it.
But what was funny was she was like on the downward.
Yeah,
and,
she
and
was.
It was in a bedding shop.
I know.
It was so
What was the
brilliant.
song?
Her big hit,
What was it?
In My Dreams.
Oh,
Yeah.
Only in My Dreams.
Only in My Dreams,
Yes,
yes. Which is brilliant for a bedding shop. I tell you what, if I walked into a bedding shop and Debbie Gibson was singing Only in My Dreams, I'd buy a bed.
I would buy a bed.
End of.
Yes.
Look, it's time for more cakes.
It
That's
is.
enough of a Hallmark diversion.
Yes.
Yes, as we mentioned earlier, Kay, going through an old recipe book, finds this spectacular cake that we'd forgotten all about.
Yeah.
Takes all the things that we love, plugs it into this cake, tries it, thinking, oh, this might work. It's delicious. So this had to be in the series. So less talk and more action, because it's time to find out what we're actually making. So let's sit back and enjoy Kay's classic bakes.
As I've grown older, I've come to realise I am at heart an old-fashioned girl. Put me in a kitchen baking something wonderful and I am in heaven. There is something very special about baking. It's like chemistry as the ingredients come together to hopefully create something wonderful. This year, I'm going to share with you 6 of my favourite bakes. Along the way, I'm going to add some little twists in my attempt for perfection. Welcome to Kay's Classic Bakes.
Yes, I am back in the kitchen today and I'm super excited. Now today's recipe is actually a really special one because it's something brand new. I've only actually recently kind of invented this recipe, if you like, and it's turned out to be absolutely delicious. So this recipe came about because, first of all, what I've tried to do through this series is sort of stay roughly seasonal. You know, I've tried to sort of match the recipes to what's going on in the world outside, you know, in terms of seasons. And we're still in summer, admittedly, but we're in late summer, aren't we? And we can feel that pull of autumn, can't we now? Because we're sort of towards the end of August. Lovely, lovely. So what that made me think of immediately was raspberries, because raspberries are perfect at this time of year. I've never grown raspberries, admittedly, but I know from seeing them in supermarkets and things like that and watching Gardener's World that they're really good at this time of year. And I found British raspberries available in 2 different supermarkets and they're absolutely beautiful. So it seemed a perfect time of year to create a recipe using raspberries. So what I did for this recipe actually was I went to my old sort of recipe book, which I've had for years, and whenever I find a recipe that I really like or come up with a recipe or whatever, I write it down in that book. And Dan actually suggested me, he says, why don't you have a look through that book and see what's in it? So I did that and I found a recipe in it that I wrote in there years ago. I can't remember where I found it. And I have made it once, I think, in the past. I'm certain I've made it once. And it's along the lines of this recipe. I've kind of been inspired by the recipe as a whole, but I've changed a lot of things. I changed the fruit, first of all. The original recipe used blueberries, and I could have used blueberries, but I don't know, I like blueberries, but I don't really feel like they've got a massive amount of flavour, especially like in a sponge. Raspberries, to me, in a cake, I do feel like the flavour of the raspberry comes through really well. So I decided to try changing the blueberries for raspberries, and then my original recipe was like a vast quantity. It was a really big cake, and I didn't want to make it quite so big because, first of all, you know, we would never have got through it here, and I think a sort of typical average sized home, a slightly smaller cake is better. So I sized down all of the ingredients, plus I swapped out a few things. I changed levels of ingredients. You know, it's difficult to know at what point a recipe or anything really in this sort of creative world becomes something that you've created. So I don't know. I mean, I've taken inspiration from a recipe that I found, but then I've pretty much changed everything. So make of that what you will. So I've also changed the name of it slightly. I can't remember what it was called in the original recipe. But what I've called this is Raspberry, Lemon and Coconut Crumble Cake. Because there's 2 elements to this cake. There's a sponge, but then there's a topping. And the topping is really what makes the cake. It's just fantastic. And, you know, when I first made this, I was like, oh, I have no idea if this is going to work. And I cut into it, I just cut it straight down the middle. I said, right, let's see how it's baked and let's just try it. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's delicious. And it's kind of like an amalgamation of all of the favourite things from me and Dan, because two of Dan's favourite flavours are raspberry and lemon together. And one of my favourite flavours is coconut. So really this is like me and Dan in a cake. And it truly is delicious. You can have it warm as more like a pudding dessert type thing. Be delicious with some cream poured over it. Or just let it go cold, cut it into chunks, have it with a cup of tea. Fantastic. So that's everything about the cake today. I'm super excited about it. It's different to anything that I've done so far in this series. It's simple. I simplified the recipe as well. That's the other thing I did. The sponge was made in a more complex way in the original recipe. I've simplified this to make it super easy, you know, for anyone to make, even if you're a kind of novice baker. So yeah, that's everything you need to know about this delicious recipe. So of course, what we need to do now is have a look at the ingredients and the equipment that we're going to need to create it. So we'll start off with the ingredients. Now, part of these ingredients will be for the cake and part will be for the topping. So I'll, you know, as I go through the recipe, you'll sort of figure out which is for which. But we're going to start off with flour, and as always I'm going to use white spelt flour. You can substitute this for self-raising flour, just normal white self-raising flour if you want to do that. But if you're going to use spelt flour or any other sort of plain flour that doesn't have raising agent, you will also need baking powder. If you're going to use self-raising flour, you don't need the baking powder. We've then got some, I'll put my hand on this, so we've got some vanilla extract. I like to use the one that's a paste, so this is vanilla bean paste, but as long as it's a good quality extract, then you'll be fine. You do not want those horrible little bottles that are in the supermarket that are called vanilla essence, I think. They're dreadful. Don't use those. Next, we've got coconut. Now, this is desiccated coconut, or Nigella likes to call it desecrated. I was watching her Christmas show actually that she put out last year. She was in Amsterdam and she made something with coconut. I think it was a curry or something, which is not my thing, but she used coconut and she called it desecrated, which I thought was really fun. Desiccated coconut is what you need. I like to use the ones that, you know, I always try and get organic when I can. This is a lovely one. It's just from Sainsbury's, but it's organic and there's no added sugar. You know, just check the back and make sure that there's no sugar. It's just pure coconut in here. We don't need any extra sweetness with it. We've then got lemon curd. Ooh, yum. Are you getting excited about this? We've got coconut, we've got lemon curd, raspberries. It couldn't be anything but delicious, really. So yeah, we've got lemon curd. Now I'm gonna go on about lemon curd as well. Now you can make lemon curd. If you want to make it, go ahead and make it. But you don't need to. Just get a good quality lemon curd from the supermarket. This one is Bon Maman, and this one is lovely and sharp. I think some of the cheaper lemon curds have got more sugar in and they're much sweeter. You want a really nice sharp lemon curd, and this one is excellent. We've then got two different sorts of butter here. Now you can use all butter. I like Country Life. I feel like I'm preaching to you because these are all my sort of favourite brands, but you know, you do whatever you want to do. But I like Country Life butter and I always use salted butter. You can use all butter for the whole of the recipe, but what I like to do when I make sponges is I actually use a really old-fashioned ingredient, and a lot of people won't want to use this because I understand, but I use stork. to make sponge cakes. I've done this before and I've mentioned Stork. It's effectively a margarine. I've always used it to make sponge cakes because it produces a really light sponge. If you use butter, it's delicious and it's got a fantastic flavour, but it does make your sponge a bit heavier. I've then got sugar, which is caster sugar. Whenever I'm making a sponge cake, always use caster sugar. I think it's called different things in different countries, but it's a really fine grain. It's granular, but it's really fine. So it's not like your standard granulated sugar, it's a finer grain. I've then got eggs, some nice free range eggs. I'm going to use 4 altogether. And then my raspberries. These ones are lovely. They're from Marks and Spencer's. They're from Kent, so they're grown in Kent. And they're just beautiful. They're, you know, they're big and just absolutely lovely. And what is great about this recipe is you've got contrasts of sharpness. Raspberries are quite a sharp fruit, I think. Lemon curd, which is sharp, but then you've got the sweetness of everything else that's going on. So it's a really lovely combination. It's not overly sweet because the raspberries sort of tame down that sweetness and that lemon curd as well. So this punnet is 180 grams and I kind of designed the recipe around having this quantity so I could just buy one. Now sometimes they come as 150 grams, so you might need 2. Depending on, you know, where you buy them. If you grow them in your garden, you can just go and pick 180 grams worth of delicious raspberries. So that's all of our ingredients, and then to make the cake, what I've got here is just a lovely roomy mixing bowl. I've got the tin. Now this is a square cake, and this is an 18 centimetre tin, and that's sort of measured on the base here. So it's 18 centimetres square. I've greased and just lined this with some baking parchment. I've then got an electric handheld mixer. You can use a tabletop one if that's what you've got. And then just normal sort of utensils. I've got a spatula, I've got a 1 teaspoon measure and just some normal spoons and what have you from your drawer. So there we go, that's everything we're going to need. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make up our sponge. Okay, so the first thing to do is to make our sponge. So before I start on that, I've turned my oven on and I'm preheating it to about 170 degrees C. That's a fan oven. If it's not a fan oven, you need it a little bit hotter, probably 180. So to make the sponge, I'm going to make it in the all-in-one method. So I've got my scales here. I forgot to mention that I'd got scales, but I always use scales. I think you know that by now. So I've got my scales and I've got a nice bowl, so I'll pop that on, 0 eyes. So my flour is the first thing. So 175 grams of flour is going in. I don't bother sieving, you know I don't bother sieving. Tell me off if you want to. So 175 grams. Now in old money, this would be a 6 ounce cake mixture. So if that's helpful to you, that's what we're making. But I've turned it into grams because that tends to be a more common measurement these days. Sadly, I do like seeing recipes that are in ounces. And now I'm going to put in 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. So again, if you are using self-raising flour, you don't need to add this. And 1/4. So I'm just going to mix that baking powder through a little bit. Okay, and then 0 ice that and add my sugar, so 175 grams. I'm then going to add our butter, stork in my case. Same amount again, 175 grams. I think it's exactly, look at that. That was lucky, wow. It's exactly 175. Phew. I'm going to put in my blob of vanilla now. And I just pour in a blob. This is a paste, so it comes out slowly, so there's no risk of you So just put in a nice big blob because we do want this to be nice and vanilla-y. The last thing to go in now is the eggs, and I'm just going to crack in 3 eggs. And those amounts that I've put in there, you don't generally need to add any milk or anything like that. Once we've beaten them all together, it should be the perfect consistency. So sometimes if your eggs are a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, you might need to add a little drop of milk, but certainly the last time I made this, I didn't need to do that. So let's move that out of the way. I'm now just going to beat this together using my mixer. So I tend to sort of start it off quite slowly until everything's incorporated in, and then you can turn up the speed a bit. What I like to do is just turn it off and get your spatula and just scrape around, and because little bits just fly up. Stay. So just scrape it around and just get those all incorporated into your mixture, and then I can turn up the speed and just give it about 5 minutes beating time. Okay, that was only actually about 2.5 minutes. It's much quicker than you think. So we've got our beautiful sponge mixture now, and is there anything better than sponge? Just like that. Oh, it's delicious. So I'll show you the consistency. As Delia always used to say, it should be a soft dropping consistency. So what that means is if you pick some up and just tap, it drops off like that. It's absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do now is fold, oh, oven's ready. What we're going to do now is fold through our raspberries. So I've got 100 grams of raspberries here. So I'm just going to tumble those in. And then you really want to be gentle with this because we don't want to break up the raspberries. We just want to incorporate them into that sponge, okay? So just really gently fold them in. Because what happens when it bakes, it's quite a long, slow bake for this cake. And what happens is they will, they will burst, they will break in the heat, and they just kind of like spread out a little bit into the sponge. Delicious. And inevitably, what also happens is because what happens when the sponge goes in is the heat makes it more liquid. So the raspberries some of them will drop down to the bottom, but that's absolutely fine because in the second stage we're going to be adding more raspberries on top. So you do get a good sort of you do get distribution of raspberries through the whole cake. So we've just stirred those through really gently. So now I'm going to pile everything into my tin. Again, I always use a spatula for this because you just get everything out when you do this. Oh, and look at that. It's just absolutely delicious looking, isn't it? If you're ever feeling a bit fed up and a bit down, make yourself a sponge cake. It can't help but cheer you up, I think. Oh, that bit flew over there, didn't it? So I'm just scraping out the last bit so your bowl's nice and clean. If you've got someone in the kitchen who wants to lick the bowl, you might not want to be quite so clean with your bowl. But Bryony's not here right now, so just gently push your sponge mixture into all of your corners there. You don't need to do this too perfectly because it levels out. Once it goes in the oven and starts to cook, it just levels out. So you can see we've got raspberries dotted around the surface here, but they will drop a little bit. That's okay. So I'm now going to pop this into the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes and keep an eye on it, because what we want is we want the top to have kind of set, so it'll start to develop like a crust, if you like. But when you pick it up out of the oven, it will still wobble, you know, it's still quite liquid underneath there, but it will have sort of set on the top. So about 20-25 minutes, keep an eye on it. So our delicious raspberry and vanilla infused sponge is in the oven and just having its first bake. So come back in part 2 when we're going to make that topping. We're going to get the cake out of the oven, we're going to crumble it all on top, we're going to put it back in the oven, and then we get to the eating. So I will see you back soon.
Now that is a gorgeous cake all on its own, but the crumble topping in part 2 is just like totally amazing.
It is.
It brings in like so. Do you know what? That cake is reminiscent. We did an episode of the radio show just the other week, and we were talking about the cakes of our years, and we referenced a cake that we had at Jervo Abbey, which was like sponge and raspberry. And that
you're right,
is similar.
Actually, it is a bit similar to that.
But then the topping takes it up like 5 notches.
It really does.
Just you wait till you see. You're not going to believe it.
It's so delicious.
It really is.
It looks like it won't work.
Yeah.
Honestly, you probably look at what I'm doing thinking, what is she doing?
But it does.
It really does
Spectacular.
work.
All to come in part 2. Because we've got, oh my goodness, 3 gorgeous projects, but also effectively a pattern launch.
Yes, and I'll do that one first.
Let's do it. Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
What's off my needles this time is 3 pairs of socks, everybody. I am doing my absolute utmost to get as clear needles as I can ready for the start of October, Sockoween.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm so excited about Sockoween. That brings me to something actually, and I'll mention it in Endy Bits. Remind me to say something about Halloween yarn that I mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, the first pair of socks I finished is the next platinum design, which is coming out on the 1st of September, and it's the waffle socks. So these are celebrating all of the waffling that we do.
And there's plenty of that.
And there's always plenty of waffle.
Certainly has been today.
So here are the socks, all finished.
They look amazing. That yarn is so lovely.
The yarn, I've got to say, honestly, this yarn is lovely. I've used this
Looks
yarn
super
before.
durable.
It really is.
Right.
I've used this yarn before for socks. It's a DK weight, and I use this yarn for my Choose Your House socks, which are a DK weight pair of socks, Harry Potter themed pair. And they've worn brilliantly well.
Right.
And the yarn, it's not specifically a sock yarn, but it just works really well. So the yarn is from this company. Do with the name as you will. Merino Soft. And the colour that I used is number 639, and it's Monet. And it's the most gorgeous. What sort of purple is this? There's a lot of pink in it.
It's periwinkle purple.
It's not.
You said there's pink in the blue.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's this sort of purple. It's gorgeous. It's sort of like an aubergine, isn't it? A little bit pinky aubergine, mauvey, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's DK weight, and this yarn is made up of, it's 50% superwash merino, 25% microfiber, and 25% acrylic. So half of the yarn effectively is really strong, you know, the microfiber and the acrylic. It's a really strong fibre, isn't it? And then you've got the superwash merino, the other half, making it super soft. So it's actually brilliant for socks. It's machine washable at 30, perfect. And I think that's a tumble dry. And it's lovely stuff, and it's really reasonable. It's not expensive. It's widely available. I get mine from Wool Warehouse. Comes in a vast range of colours, and it's just so lovely to knit. So yeah, these are the waffle socks coming out, as I said, on the 1st of September. So it uses just a classic waffle stitch. Had to do that really for the waffle socks, didn't I? I've knit them short with a short leg because you know that's what I like at the moment, but obviously you can knit your leg as long as you want. I did, in the pattern, I did put the exact amount of yarn that I used for this pair. So, and I did put a note that if you do a really long leg, you might need more than 100 grams. Because I used 2 50-gram balls and I did have some left over, but you know, if you knit a really long leg, you might need another ball of it. So I put all that into the pattern. So I did a rib to sort of flow into the waffle pattern. Standard sort of slip stitch heel. I did a square turn with this one. And then a modified umbrella toe to make it work for DK weight. And there's just one size in this pattern. It's just the size medium. So this is effectively the same size as like a 64 stitch fingering weight sock. And that's really just because of the stitch count for the stitch pattern. I did try adjusting it up to make it fit 3 sizes, and you can easily do that, but it lost a bit of the waffle look for me when I did that. So I left it as it traditionally is, and I've just put it in as just this one size, because I think even if it's not your size of a sock, you'll likely know somebody that will fit this, so you can always knit them as a gift pair. So yeah, those ones coming out on the 1st of September.
Gorgeous.
And then, okay, the next pair I'm very excited about because it means I can put these on my feet tonight. And I'm super excited about that. These are the shorty socks that I was knitting last time, the Scrappy pair. And these ones are all finished too.
Wow.
Aren't they lovely?
Oh, they're amazing.
They are really pretty, aren't they? So I reversed the colours on the second sock, but I kept the heel colours the same so that gave a bit of kind of cohesiveness. But then I reversed the order that I knit the colours in. And this is just a really short pair. I did 12 rounds for the cuff and then 18 rounds for the leg. I did a butterfly heel. This is one of my heels. It's like a mock short row heel. And then I should tell you which patterns that's in because I know people will ask. So this heel, the butterfly heel, it's in the lattice top socks. And it's also in the fairground socks. And then I've just striped 9 rounds each in just a bunch of yarns I wanted to work with. And then an umbrella toe.
Gorgeous.
I think they've turned out really sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be putting those on my feet tonight.
Amazing.
Very exciting. Because I wanted to have a pair that wasn't part of my sock stash so that I could wear them. These are the pair. Lovely. And then the final pair won't fit on the blockers, so I'll just hold them up. I finished Bryony's Witchy Socks.
Oh, they're so cool.
Look at these. Aren't they cool?
Yeah.
So they're super long. What she wanted was like a pair of socks that was sort of like a witch's stocking. So I did a really long leg. I've never done a leg as long as this. I know some people just have long legs like that all the time, don't they? Gosh. No, I'm glad I don't. But I used I dyed these 2 colours. She wanted green and she wanted black. So I dyed these and I used that base that's a bit thicker. So I knit these on 56 stitches with 2.75mm and they just work perfectly. And she's tried them on and they fit lovely. So that's great.
Amazing.
And they're all done. I'm very glad they're done actually. I don't mind ends. You know, I've said to you I don't mind weaving in ends, but I'll tell you these ones, tested my end weaving.
You counted them, didn't you?
I did. I counted how many ends there were when I cut them all off on one, and there was 50 ends in one sock. So in this whole pair of socks, I've sewn in 100 ends.
That's insane.
That's bonkers. I don't recommend doing that.
She's going to love them, though.
But she will love them.
Perfect for university.
And she said they're going to be a Halloween sock she's going to wear on Halloween when she's in university.
Nice one. Cool.
Yes.
Some gorgeous projects. Now it's time to
Very
finish
pleased.
off a gorgeous cake as we head back to
Yum,
make
yum.
the wonderful crumble topping.
Welcome back everybody to part 2 of Kay's Classic Bakes, where we are making that delicious raspberry, lemon and coconut crumble cake. Fantastic. So what we need to do now, before it comes out of the oven for the first sort of half of the bake, we need to make that topping ready for when it comes out to get it scattered over. So let's get to making the topping. So our cake needs about another 5 minutes until we take it out. So I'm gonna just whip up the topping. So what we're going to do, pop our bowl on the scales again, and I'm gonna put into here 100 grams of the coconut. This should just be more or less exactly 100 because the bag was 200 and I've made one already, fingers crossed. 100, and there's like a few grains left. I'm gonna put them in. Let's be frivolous. And then 50 grams of caster sugar. The original recipe used a lot more sugar than this, and I've really pared that down because I think even though the coconut doesn't have sugar in, I think it's sweet. So just 50 grams of caster sugar. Okay. So into that now, just give it a little mix. So into there, I'm going to pour in, what I've got here is 25 grams of melted butter. This is real butter, you know, proper butter. So just 25 grams of melted butter. And then just stir that through. And this will start it sort of clumping together. Okay. And now I've got the egg. So I've got one whole egg here that I've beaten. And I'm only going to use about half of it, you know, depending on the size of your egg. So I'll just drizzle in about a half and then give that a mix. And what we're creating is sort of like a crumbly topping. It's not a solid thing at all because there's no flour, but we're just trying to form little sort of clumps. That looks about right. I might just add a touch more egg because the other thing the egg does as well is as it's cooking, it causes it to sort of cook together. You know, it binds it, so it will help with creating that kind of sort of rough, crumbly look to the topping. That's better. So it wants to look sort of like this, so that you've got, when you get your knife and you separate it off, it sort of separates into little clumpy things. That looks perfect. So I'm just going to check on the cake to see how it's getting on. I'm just going to give it 2 more minutes, okay? So yeah, I'll just tell you the other things that we've got ready. So I've got my raspberries, so 80 grams of raspberries. If it's a bit less, doesn't matter, it's fine. And then I've got lemon curd here. There's 150 grams of lemon curd, and I've measured it into a little jug, and I've just heated that in the microwave just to give it a bit of warmth so that it then pours nice and easily. Okay, so it's just barely warm, but it just means that it'll pour out. Okay, so I'm now I'll get my cake out and then we'll put on this lovely topping. Okay, so as I took that out of the oven, I've notched it down to 160 degrees, okay? Right, so you can see I'll need my gloves to do this, but you can see it's sort of is set on the top, but it's still super wobbly. Can you see that? So we have to do this fairly rapidly now. So the first thing I'm going to do is just scatter the raspberries. You can see they sit on top. Your cake might drop down a little bit as you do this, don't worry. But they'll sit on the top. And just, distribute them over in a haphazard way. One in the middle. And then take your lemon curd, and I'm just going to pour it, drizzled over, back and forth. Is this not the most delicious looking thing you've ever seen? Oh, the smell, because the cake is warm and I've put on the raspberries and the lemon, the smell coming up is just heavenly. And then pour it over the raspberries as well. Give those raspberries a nice drizzle. And then get your crumbly topping and just grab handfuls and just sprinkle it over like this. When I first did this, I thought, this is never going to work, it's going to all collapse and be an absolute mess, and it doesn't. Just do it gently, don't drop it from a great height. And then we're going to pop this back in the oven at that lower temperature, at 160 fan, for about 25 to 30 minutes. Now keep an eye on it, you don't want that coconut to burn. It will go a really nice brown golden colour, but it shouldn't burn, okay? If you think it looks like it's burning, just turn your oven down a little bit. Okay, so back in the oven, 25-30 minutes. My cake is finished and it's having a bit of a cool down. So just if you're going to eat it warm, still let it have a bit of a cool down, because it's nice just warm, not hot from the oven. So yeah, it's having its bit of a cool down, and we're just going to get ready to sit down, make a cup of tea and have a delicious slice of the, just hopefully, what will be a fantastic cake.
Well, this is, you said at the start of this episode that this was a seasonal special.
Yeah,
and it absolutely is.
It feels right, doesn't it, for the time of year?
And it brings back so many memories, because as I've said a few times during the process of you developing this recipe, it just reminds me so much, even though it's totally different, of my mum's coconut pyramids.
Coconut pyramids,
That sounds wrong saying that, but she always used to make them, and the smell that comes off this is...
The smell in the kitchen, I've got to say, is lovely.
I have to say though, that adding coconut pyramids were always a bit too much for me. I know they wouldn't have been for you.
Oh no, it would too sweet.
Because you loved the old Bounty, didn't you?
I did love a Bounty, yeah, but you kind of get a bit of a contrast, don't you? Coconut pyramid, isn't it just pure like coconut?
Yeah, it is.
With sugar sticking it
Condensed
together.
Milk. Condensed
milk, which is sweet.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Cake.
It's so great. It's the raspberry and the lemon. It just goes so well together. But then...
It's delicious.
It's the crunch on that topping.
The crunch on the topping is lovely, isn't it?
It's what makes it...
With the soft sponge.
There's definitely the vibe of old-fashioned, welcoming.
Oh, I love coconut. Yummy.
And there's a chewy nature.
There is, and that's because...
It's toffee in a way, some of it.
Yeah, it's because of the lemon curd being next to the coconut. And the lemon curd goes kind of chewy when it's heated up.
And what I've enjoyed the most about this cake is the fact that we've eaten a lot of it before now, and it hasn't bothered me in the slightest. And that, to me,
on your tummy.
What I love about that then is You know, there's some things which you still eat and you know that it's not going to be great, but you eat it because you love it. To have something like this which tastes great and you know you can eat it without thinking, oh, I'm going to regret this tomorrow.
It's actually quite light, I think. The sponge is super light. And the topping isn't heavy.
No.
And I think because I reduced sugar quantities as well, it's not overly sweet. I don't think it's sweet, you know, it's a cake, but it's not overly sweet.
I can't believe the amount of sugar that was in this, in the old recipe, because that's perfection. Now, this has been a wonderful series, but for me, and I'm very excited about the final episode.
Oh yes.
But that's for next time. This and the hot cross bun
Are the best.
This and the hot cross bun has to be a permanent fixture.
And it is delicious. And even with this quantity, the recipe that I found...
Was that for a wedding or something?
No, the quantities were so big. I think this is like a 6-ounce mixture, because I said that, didn't I? I think the other one was like an 8-ounce mixture. It was a bigger tin. A lot more coconut, a lot more sugar on the top. And it put lemon zest as well in the sponge, and I didn't do that. I put vanilla in, and I think there's enough lemon with the curd, I think.
Big hits of lemon.
Yeah, there is.
And I think that the blueberries just wouldn't have worked in the same way.
I have made it with blueberries. I can't fully remember what it was like.
Isn't it wonderful to go to a recipe that you probably made 15 or 20 years ago?
Years ago, yeah.
And come back to it and sort of think, oh, how do we eat now? What do we like now? And adjust it, and boom.
I just think the raspberries go so much better with lemon than blueberries maybe would. I just don't think blueberries taste of a huge amount. I like them, but...
The only time I like a blueberry is like when it's not quite ripe.
Oh,
you know,
right.
just slightly off. As soon as it goes soft, to me, it's just, there's not much to it. Whereas a raspberry, at any stage, is just delicious.
And they're sharp, aren't they? Lovely and sharp.
This it's a complete triumph, and it would work in so many settings too, which is fun.
It would.
Just brilliant.
Fabulous, love it.
A wonderful, sort of perfect penultimate recipe.
So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. And if you make it, I really hope you enjoy it as much as we have. I think you could see exactly how much we loved that delicious cake. So join me for what will be the final episode in this series. That's very, very exciting, when we're going to be celebrating all things autumnal. So I will see you back soon.
Now that is what I call a classic bake. That topping, oh my goodness, like coconut pyramids on top of a cake. But even better because of the lemon and the raspberries
It's just a sort of, it's a trilogy made in heaven.
of wonderfulness.
Raspberry, lemon, coconut.
It is
Honestly,
just the business.
Cannot go wrong.
And like you can eat it and not have to think about it. The spelt makes it just perfect, and
Yes.
you know the changes that it's just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about the changes I made. I reduced the sugar and I changed the quantities.
It's
a
not
bit
the same recipe. It's your recipe.
No, it's difficult, isn't it? And I did say within
yes,
it,
you
didn't
did,
I?
yeah.
You know, when does something become something you've created as opposed to...
When you change the ingredients and the amounts.
Yeah, I mean, I did change a lot of things about it. But obviously, make of it as you wish. If, you know, go ahead and make one and call it whatever you want. You know,
Well, yeah.
it's
Yeah, just make
make
it and eat it.
If you like...
Call it what you like.
If I know some people don't like coconut. Honestly, I think you're all bonkers if you don't like coconut, but each to their own.
Yeah, that's not like eating coconut. That would be like saying I don't like mushrooms and refusing to have them in your bolognese. I think so.
Not really, because you can taste the coconut.
You can taste the coconut, but a slice of coconut is a different experience to eating a slice of that cake.
Yeah.
Just like eating a slice of mushroom is different to eating a spoonful of bolognese.
It is. I mean, I'd happily have a sliced mushroom.
Yes.
But yeah, you know, if you do like coconut and you like raspberries and you like lemon, honestly,
that's the cake for
you
you.
really need to make it.
Yeah.
If you've got some like family coming round for Sunday dinner or something, perfect after with a cup of tea.
One episode to go now of Kay's
Yes.
Classic Bakes, and that's not until, I think, have I written down when it is? I can't remember when it is. I think so we're now, or I think it's October.
It's into the autumn,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's October.
Yeah.
And it's a seasonal special,
It's
and you
very
don't want to miss it.
seasonal, yes.
Like, oh my goodness, the business.
Yeah, yeah.
Because next time, it's time for more England and Castle Nation. And we're getting, surprisingly, I had no idea that this was going to happen, but we're getting to the best bit ever. I'm discovering stuff I had no idea about, and I'm sort of uncovering a period of history which is just neglected. Because if you want to sort of dig into the foundation of Great Britain, if you want to dig into the reason why the colonies were set up in the Americas, if you want to sort of dig into perhaps the gunpowder plot and Guy Fawkes, I mean, these are all huge events, and it all happened in the time of the Stuarts. And we're going to get into that story in the next episode when we're doing more England and Castle Nation.
Very exciting.
It's very exciting. Right now, though, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits!
Oh, yes. It is, of course, the year of 24.
Yes.
We're currently watching all of them and
We
loving
are.
it. And I hope you noticed in today's show the homage to 24, specifically in Kay's Classic Bakes.
So I tend to sort of start it off quite slowly until everything's incorporated in, and then you can turn up the speed of it.
And I loved it. So hopefully you guys loved it too, because I think it really added something to the edit. And potentially next year we might start using it a little bit more.
That's fun, isn't it?
If you like that and you found it fun, and I think it was entertaining and also really useful. So yeah, homage to 24. Hopefully we'll have some more of that. Kay had a question about Halloween, yeah.
Yes, so we've mentioned Sockaween coming up, runs through October, and I've been trying to find some sort of Halloween inspired yarns to knit with, and we're August, we're getting into nearly September, aren't we? So I would expect sort of hand dyers to be thinking along those lines, but I've been looking for some self-striping, in particular sort of Halloweeny yarns, just in sort of typical fun Halloween colours. And I can kind of easily find some in America, and I don't mind, if I really want something, I will get it shipped from America. But the ones I found this morning, for example, the shops don't ship here, and I have found that more recently when I've been looking at certain shops, and I think, oh yeah, I'm going to splash out and I'm going to order that. I find out then that they don't ship to the UK. I think it's becoming a bit more of a common thing. So I just wondered if anybody knew of any UK dyers, particularly sort of self-striping people, who they might have seen are dyeing up Halloween yarns. If I've looked on the normal sort of self-striping shops that I'm aware of in the UK, and I haven't come across Anything yet. It might be that I'm a bit early with it, but we are almost not far off September, so I would have expected people to have them in. Maybe it's something that UK dyers don't particularly focus on. I mean, Halloween is becoming more of a thing in the UK, I would say. I know it's more popular in the US. I don't mind if I can find a shop in the US that's got some really nice self-striping Halloween yarn, and they do ship to the UK. I would be happy, to do that. So any recommendations that you might have for some lovely self-striping Halloween yarn, please, comment under the show, and that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Our Patreon exclusive show is back on Sunday, and it's a biggie. It's a biggie because we're saying goodbye to the summer of stitching, looking back over the event, but we're also launching the waffle socks properly. They'll be talking a little bit about the design process and how it all came together. Also, as well, we will be talking about our next big event, which is Sockaween. So getting excited for Sockaween. And also, as well, we've got a new issue of Knitability coming out, I think, on the 12th of September, and that's going to be getting very excited about autumn and Sockaween too.
Absolutely.
But I've digressed because the pop show is on Sunday. And it is at 2 p.m. British summertime. That's the live show. But then all patrons can watch the recording of the show from 3:10. We've also got a segment in there as well about finding patterns. So what's your process for finding a pattern?
Right.
How do you go about finding a pattern? Where do you go look? What do you go looking for? Because I think that's something which personally I find really difficult. And, it would be really cool if people shared their process. And we'll talk a little bit about we'll talk a little bit how Kay goes about finding patterns for me. The radio show, that's back next week, and I think we're going to have to talk about saying goodbye to school and hello to university.
I think we will.
Probably one of the most challenging times of being a parent
not
ever.
wanted to tempt fate until we had it signed and sealed.
Yes,
so
yes.
we can do that now.
So that's going to be fun. That'll be out next Friday. Last week's episode was the one all about cakes. So if you want to sort of delve into our history with cakes, our favourite cakes, cakes of our sort of years, then you can go listen to that show right now. And I think that pretty much is it. Oh, yes.
Can I just mention that yarn that I just found? So I was just tidying up this yarn here, and I came across a yarn that I didn't realise I'd had it this long, and I realised something about it, and it means I'm going to get it on the needles. I designed a shawl in 2016. I cannot believe it's that long ago. It's called the Ollivander shawl, and it was inspired by Harry Potter, and it's a asymmetrical, starts with like a few stitches and works out, asymmetrical shawl, and I used the Fibonacci sequence to work out the thickness of the stripes as you went through it. It's a 2-colour shawl, and because the Fibonacci sequence appears so much in nature, it did make it look really aesthetically pleasing. It was really pretty. But the yarn that I used, one of the yarns that I used for it, was dyed especially for me by Deb at Fondant Fibre. Lovely Deb, doesn't dye currently. But when she sent me the yarn, she sent me 2 skeins. And I've had this other skein in my stash since 2016. And I came across it this morning and realised that it's that thicker base that I've been talking about recently. It's superwash merino, cashmere and nylon, which is the same, 350 metres, the same. And I actually named this, she let me name it when she sent it to me. I described the sort of colours that I wanted, and then she dyed it up and sent it to me. And it's these colours. Isn't it beautiful?
It's gorgeous.
And I called it Cosmic Wonder Dust. So you can't get this, she just dyed it for me. I think at the time she put some in her shop, but obviously this is 8 years ago or whatever. So I don't know, somebody out there might also have a skein. But when I realised what base this was, I'm thinking, right, do you know what? I'm going to get this wound up. I'm going to knit myself a pair of socks with it because It's got nylon in it.
That's the way.
How exciting is that? So
see that next time.
Wanted to share that with you.
Yes. So, folks, thank you so much for watching. What a wonderful show.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks
fun.
with a brand new show
and make
featuring
cake.
England, a castle nation.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Who's it sitting and knitting? It's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which they're favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in